My mom has stage 4 cancer in her bones and in her breast. My dad's disease was 15 years, he died of ALS. I made a podcast about death, seemed like the thing to do. And if you're sad by all of this, well, you're gonna die too. Babesicles, you're an icicle made of a babe and you drip in the heat. Why are you dripping? Okay, that just got weird. You're still a babesicle, though. You are still a babesicle. Today, I'm reading a powerful article I found on Modern Loss's website. Been doing more of these quick bites episodes for just a quicker burst of inspiration and connection. Before going there, gentle reminder that if you're in Los Angeles, I am co-hosting a grief event. If you're not there, celebrating you virtually anyways. I wish we could all be in the same place, but if you are in LA, this Saturday at Santa Monica at Stella Bar Pizzeria on the west side from 2 to 4 p.m., we're doing the Experience Camps open house. And last week we had Jessie Moss on the show, who is the community engagement manager for Experience Camps, which is a free camp for kids to go to who have lost a parent or a sibling. It's held in 5 states. It's free. It's amazing. I'm a volunteer there. Volunteer as a grief counselor, peer-based coach support system for the kids, and it is so life-changing. So if this is in any way interesting to you, I do hope to see you this Saturday. It's informal. You don't have to sign up for anything. It's just a nice way to connect and meet some other people who have lost parents and siblings. Truly, truly very happy to be there, to be connected in person, outdoors, and just meet other people who have lost people, you know? Okay, I think I already said that 5 times. So for today's inspo, this article is called In the Face of Death, We Laughed. As AIDS ravaged my friend's body, levity carried us through the end, by Laura Gentle. Laura is a freelance writer and communication creative living her best weird life in New Orleans. That was her bio, and I was like, yes. And then I looked her up. She spent most of her life living and working in the Deep South. She obtained a social science degree with honors from the University of West Georgia. She is known for homeless, HIV and LGBTQ+ advocacy work in Atlanta. A film buff since childhood, she's the great-granddaughter of 20th Century Fox Studios founder Darryl Zanuck and granddaughter of independent film producer Richard Zanuck. Besides Hollywood, her other background is Ozark Hillbilly. Despite her contrasting origins, she grew up adopted as a humble and service-focused creative from a working-class background. I kind of love this person. Who are they? I don't know. They're funny, and I found them online, and I'm going to read their story that was published on Modern Loss, as I just said. Now, on to the article. This is nice, isn't it? It is. I think this is a nice place to die, don't you? I think it's a lovely place to die. I was sitting on a wooden bench with my friend Jake. Intermingled lovebirds were carved into the back piece. A peaceful courtyard surrounded us. Flowers, birds, and so much natural beauty, it was easy to forget we were tucked in the back of an industrial park, smack in the middle of congested Atlanta. It was a hospice facility, and Jake was there, dying of AIDS. He was 33 years old. The first time I saw someone dying of AIDS was the 1990 Life magazine photo of David Kirby, a gay activist whose family accepted him back on his deathbed. He became the face of the HIV crisis for many Americans, including 8-year-old me. I remember thinking he looked like a concentration camp victim. Sunken cheeks, withered skin on frail bones, and a deep glare that can only be earned through intense pain and suffering. It appeared a terrible way to die. When Jake was diagnosed with HIV, I was working at an LGBT youth homeless shelter. 1/3 of my clients were HIV positive. I'd worked with homeless and HIV service providers for many years. I knew Atlanta's care system inside and out. Armed with all of my knowledge and networking, I barely made a dent in helping Jake before he ended up in hospice. Jake came out to his family in the early 2000s. He was rejected and told that one day he would get AIDS and die. HIV diagnosis is no longer a death sentence, but it was to Jake. Diagnosis spiraled into emotional chaos and detachment from reality. Old wounds cut through his ability to see a future for himself, and he developed a serious drug habit to cope with those inner demons. The end of addiction is also the end of the bridges the person has burned. Jake burned almost every bridge he could have. He had run through all the support systems his friends and others had offered. After months of no communication, it wasn't a surprise when I received a call from one of his dealers announcing his pending death and a request for visitors. He's very thin. You may react without wanting to. He's okay with that. I just want you to prepare yourself. The first time I opened the door to his room, he exclaimed in his thick Arkansas drawl, "Oh, look what that cat dragged in." I made a joke about weight loss and sat down in a big armchair across from his bed. He was in the middle of dictating his final wishes. "Laura, go pick out a movie. I'm so bored I could die." He made a funny face and returned to the task of what to do with his body once he was no longer in it. My fingers ran over the small stack of LGBT DVDs. Brokeback Mountain, Milk, Boys Don't Cry, Rent. All films we had seen together in happier times. My eyes narrowed on the last title, Angels in America. I had hounded him for years to watch Kushner's brilliant miniseries. And there it was. I stood for a moment in the middle of it all, staring at the angels in front of me, knowing my dying friend was behind me. I blurted out, "Jesus, Jake, are you trying to depress yourself to death?" As I fought back tears, trying to maintain a hold on some sense of composure, he hollered behind me, "Why do you think I wanted to see you? I need more movies." We went on like that for a few months, making jokes and remembering old times in between medication breaks, bathroom rushes, and morphine naps. We passed a lot of time on that bench discussing what might come after death. We decided there should definitely be a bar. One of the last times I saw Jake, he grabbed my hand with both of his and asked softly, "Promise you won't forget me?" I placed my other hand on top of his and replied, "I promise, so long as you have a drink waiting for me when I get there." And we laughed right until the end. He's been dead 2 years, and I've kept my promise. I think of him often and write about him yearly in remembrance. Jake lives on in every wake of the rainbow flag, every inch of the AIDS memorial quilt, every margarita toast among friends. What he taught me about dying was the best advice I ever got about living. Life is short and death is always tragic. If you can learn to laugh in the face of it all, you'll never be forgotten. Thank you so much, Laura, for your beautiful piece. As you know, it is the Dying of Laughter podcast, so anyone here is probably connecting right there with you. We love being able to laugh until the face of it all, even when it's so hard that we don't feel that we can. Even when we feel like moving on, we never fully do. It's beautiful to think of your friend, Jake, and I'm so glad, Laura, you were able to share more of his story here. That is my little pop-in for this week, sharing this bit of inspo. Be sure to reach out to your loved ones, dead, dying, or fucking alive. This is your little sign to say something to someone that you've been too scared to say, or you've just been holding on to for whatever reason or another. I find the longer I've put something off, the more I continue to do so, unless I get that little push. So if you're listening, this is your little push to reach out to someone, again, dead, dying, or alive, and say your piece. Like Laura. Thanks, Laura. Thanks for being here. And as always, if you'd like to vent to me about your experience with grief or anticipatory grief, you can, as always, hit me up on the Instagram at Dying of Laughter Podcast. Again, that's at Dying of Laughter Podcast, or my personal account is at Chels Who Else. Or feel free to share me something positive about your life. Doesn't have to be all deathy up in here. We'll be back next week with another interview. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll talk to you soon. Yodo, you only die once.